Greetings. In this video, I'm going to go through some of the steps I use to translate this zombie-like character over to the character creator 5 HD Base Mesh. This is an AI mesh. I just sculpted on top of it, fixed it up a bit, added some details. I added the brain wound, the intestines, things of that nature. It's like some scratches on his arms. Just zombie bites, because he would have been a human and he was infected by obviously another zombie. I'm using ZBrush rather than Blender because I'll be using the ZWrap plugin. There is a soft wrap plugin for Blender. I'm just not sure it's been updated for a while and it's not really compatible with the latest versions as far as I know. And while you can use this method to transfer a character design like one-to-one over to the character creator base mesh, I'm just going to use most of the elements of this to transfer over to the base mesh. If this were being done for like a client or a character design that needed like strict adherence to the design or the concept, I would certainly pay more attention to it. Once you have the full character concept sculpted, you want to line it up as best as you can to the pose of the character creator base mesh. I'd recommend creating a morph target so you can dial out some of the distortions that are coming up. I could have kept it as a T pose rather than an A pose, because you can fix that in character creator. It's a good practice to keep the source mesh and the base mesh as close as possible, just for wrapping purposes. You can turn on or off symmetry. Since this is an asymmetric sculpt, I would kind of recommend turning it off, at least for the sculpt side. Basically because if you try to apply symmetry with your points on an asymmetric sculpt, some of them will just like disappear and they'll be like end up on the back of the head or somewhere where you don't want them, and then you got to find them. Align the points as best you can on both sides, so that they correspond to where things should go when it wraps. Once you have your points, you can begin the wrapping process. I would choose cartoon wrap for this. You'll notice that certain elements didn't wrap well. Those would be the eyelashes and the tear ducts, the mouth, inner mouth, and the eye sockets. That's why I create a morph target before I wrap, so I can selectively dial those out and then fix them. That is achieved by masking everything except for those elements and then using the morph slider. That will selectively dial out those deformations. Character Creator has things pre-masked unless you overwrite them. So like the eye sockets the tear ducts, the eyelashes. That makes it easier to isolate those elements and morph them out. When you're in the process of projecting details, I would recommend doing it in stages. Start at a low resolution or a mid resolution. Project the details. Smooth out any issues. And then go to a higher resolution. And you can also mask off things if you want to do those selectively. The head represents some difficulties, and it's good to align the mesh as best you can before you project. That'll minimize distortions. You'll also want the underlying mesh geometry of the base mesh to represent where you want things to go. Like you want the eye sockets to be up where the eye sockets are and not stretched down, towards the nose or past the mouth, or you want things to be correct so that when the mesh deforms, it'll deform properly and not all over the place. Basically, you want the underlying mesh to be in the correct place. I'm not confident this is going to wrap well for the face. So what I'm going to do is delete the old morph target, create a new morph target with some of the floating details aligned so I can find them, and then create a new morph target. Then do another Z wrap on his head. That should mostly align things, and I'm going to do it at a slightly higher resolution. I've masked off the body so that I can easily dial out the morph issues after it's wrapped, because even though it's masked, it'll shift a little bit. Now the head is in a slightly better position to project details. And it's still going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm going to use masking to smooth out some of the details in the transitions for the inner mouth and the eye sockets. And then I'm going to smooth out some things as I go, as I transition between the subdivision levels. Sometimes things are very too hard to smooth out at the highest subdivision level, so I'll just bring it down to a few levels below, and then just incrementally smooth things and fix things as I dial up the resolution. As things come together, I'm just fixing the mesh stretching and some of the areas where the color didn't quite transfer. After aligning the base mesh, you'll have to align the teeth, the eyes, the tongue. You can skip the other elements like the tear line and the eye occlusion, because those will be generated automatically. Since this is an undead character, his teeth will be protruding quite a bit. Even though his teeth don't get longer, they recede more into the gums. So the gums recede, I mean. And I'll have some wear and tear on his teeth, and I'll arrange his teeth so that they've been worn down through like biting bone and all that stuff. And the process of biting down in that bone and all those shards of human, his lips have been destroyed, so I'll add that. And I'll add a few other fun elements, like maybe a bite on his arm or scratches on his neck that reveal the muscle a little bit. With everything ready to go, I'm going to uncheck displacement and send it over to Character Creator. And it'll create all the maps and apply them to the Character Creator side after the character is transferred. So he's looking okay. I just got to fix a few things with his pose. I'm not going to mirror symmetry this because he's an asymmetrical character. Now I'm going to fix his pose. I usually do this through the set HIK T-pose. I'd recommend straightening out his fingers as best you can. You might have to go back in ZBrush and fix them up a little bit more. Basically, you want them to be straight so that they comply with the default pose settings, because all animation is based off this T-pose or off your base pose. I noticed some of his normal maps are a little distorted, and that can be corrected in a 3D Paint program or a 2D Paint program. When fixing normal maps, you can select an adjacent blue color and paint over those green distortions, green and I guess red and purple. Basically the areas that really stand out, those represent distorted normals, and they'll be very noticeable on the character when it reflects light. One of the things I'm going to do is set his jaw to be more closed. Just because if I want the jaw to be open like this, I can pose it like that through animation. I don't want his resting jaw to be so far open. And now I'm going to give him some ragged clothes, which I'm going to add some opacity maps to it just to make it more tattered. And then that's it. And there we have it. The zombie is ready for his debut. Thanks for watching.